This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 2nd day of June in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here's what we're tracking tonight. The National COVID-19 Task Force today announced its decision to extend the current curfew and health emergency measures until the 17th of June, as Guyana continues with its efforts to fight the spread of the coronavirus. There were calls for a full lockdown of the country, but the task force decided against any such move.
There is a rumor out there that there's going to be a complete lockdown in Guyana from next week. This rumor is forcing people to do panic buying, and it's creating unnecessary crowds in our marketplaces and in places where people have to shop. I want to make this very clear that the National Corona Task Force has not considered a national lockdown. What we have before us is a consideration for the extension of the current measures beyond the 3rd of June. And this has nothing to do with a complete lockdown. I therefore call on all Guyanese to observe the guidelines of social distancing, washing of hands, wearing of masks in the public, and particularly to what is gazetted in the orders as essential services. I trust that we pay attention to these, and once we do that, I am confident that we can see this through together.
CEO of the task force, Joe Harmon. Under the measures, persons are being encouraged to stay within the confines of their homes and yard space. If they must venture out, they should be wearing a face mask. The restrictions on social activities will also remain in place. Non-essential businesses are to continue to keep their doors closed, and the essential ones that are allowed to be open must also follow the gazetted order with regards to the times they are allowed to operate. The airports will remain closed to regularly scheduled services. Only special authorized flights will be allowed. Citizens are also being reminded to follow the social distancing guidelines. The extension of the measures come as Guyana continues to see rising cases of the disease, but also a rising number of recoveries. Health authorities are focusing heavily now on the bordering communities with Brazil and Venezuela, as those two countries have a large number of cases. Brazil is now the second most affected country in the world. Meanwhile, the Public Health Ministry revealed this afternoon that for the second straight day, there were no new cases of the coronavirus in Guyana. 14 tests were completed over the past 24 hours, and all 14 of those tests returned a negative result. The total number of active cases remains at 71, with 2 of those persons in the coronavirus intensive care unit. The Director of Primary Health Care, Dr. Hortensia Hamilton, today focused once again on the situation in Regions 1 and 7. She said those 2 regions have recorded most of the recent cases. Dr. Hamilton said persons in the mining communities in those regions need to be vigilant.
Residents of Region 1 and 7, and most importantly, those from the mining communities, we continue to ask you to be vigilant and provide the necessary information for us to be able to contain the spread of this disease in your communities. Those persons experiencing the signs and symptoms of this disease are asked to contact the hotline or the closest health facility so that you can access the necessary services. The same is being asked of all those who have been in contact with someone who was tested positive. We appeal once more to all other agencies and community groups to reinforce the guidelines to all residents.
Meanwhile, the National COVID-19 Task Force has released several hotline numbers that persons seeking the government's assistance for relief items should call. Those numbers have been posted to the social media pages and the government websites. More news coming up in a moment.
We all want to stay in touch, right? Now, even more than ever before. So to keep your connection strong, GTT is going 2 for 2. Combine GTT mobile and home internet services and we'll give you 2 gigs of free mobile data each month. With 2 GTT services, you're fully connected at home and on the go. Visit us online at gtt.co.gy/2for2 to learn more and start doing more with 2 for 2 from GTT. Stay safe, stay strong, Guyana. We're in this together.
GBTI is your Guyanese bank, a bank that understands every customer's unique needs, opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. At GBTI, we see you for you. Whether you're buying a new home or car, planning your next vacation or retirement, saving for your child's future, or whether you're ready to take that bold step of investing in your dream business idea, we are with you every step of the way. We hear your stories and watch you focus on your dreams as we share your aspirations. We are more than just banking. We are a family. We are part of your community. Our commitment extends way beyond the walls of our branches and is demonstrated every day in the opportunities we provide to our individual and business customers. The support, time, and commitment we give back to communities across Guyana to help improve the lives of our Guyanese families. Because we see Guyana through your eyes. Parents and guardians, you are encouraged to tune in to the Guyana Learning Channel, Cable 29 or Channel 42 for daily educational and interactive learning sessions. The nursery program airs from 6 hours to 9 hours. Primary programs from 9 hours to 12 noon. We also air informative documentaries from 12 noon to 13 hours, and our secondary level programs are aired from 13 hours to 15 hours. Please continue to listen to our radio broadcasts. The interactive radio instruction for grades 1 to 3 daily on Voice of Guyana from 9 hours 30 to 10 hours for grade 1 pupils, from 10 hours 30 to 11 hours for grade 2s, and 13 hours to 13 hours 30 for grade 3 pupils. Please remember to tune in to benefit from these educational opportunities. A message from the Ministry of Education.
The following is an important message from the Ministry of Public Health. You can prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. If you have the following symptoms: coughing, fever, or difficulty breathing, please stay home. If you don't have these symptoms, then practice social distancing. Avoid crowds. When in a group, keep a distance of at least 3 feet between yourself and other persons. Please wash your hands with soap regularly or use hand sanitizers. The Ministry of Public Health has a hotline to provide information on the coronavirus. Members of the public can call 227-4986 or 624-3067.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Education has decided that the National Grade 6 Assessment Examinations, popularly known as Common Entrance, will take place on the 1st and 2nd of July. Senior education officials have confirmed to News Source. The examinations were originally scheduled for the 8th and 9th of April, but were cancelled because of the coronavirus pandemic. As part of the preparations for the Common Entrance and other national exams, schools will reopen their doors from the 8th of June to the 15th of August to cater specifically for students preparing for the Common Entrance and CXC examinations. While schools will reopen for face-to-face sessions between the teachers and students, classes will not be held daily, News Source understands. The Education Ministry is expected to have the order for the examinations gazetted tomorrow, and the ministry will reveal its plans for the safe sitting of the exams at a press conference later this week. News Source has learned that under the order, no more than 15 students will be permitted to be seated in a classroom at any one time for the classroom sessions and the exams, and they must be seated at least 6 feet apart from each other. In keeping with the efforts to fight the coronavirus, all schools must have stations for hand washing with a regular supply of soap and running water. The schools will also have to have an area designated as a waiting area for when students arrive at school before they enter the examination rooms. Floor markings will have to be put in place to ensure students are always 6 feet apart from each other, and the invigilators will have to place the exam papers papers on the desks in the classrooms before the students arrive to ensure distancing between the students and the invigilators. All students, teachers, and invigilators will have to be wearing face masks once they are in the school compound, and their temperatures will be checked at the entrance to the examinations center. Medical personnel from the community where the exam centers are located will also be stationed at the schools for the days of the exams. School cleaners will be trained in the proper sanitization of the classrooms in keeping with the health measures, and vending will only be allowed for those authorized canteen vendors who are allowed within the school compound. Parents are being encouraged to pick up their children promptly once the exams are over. The Education Ministry intends to provide transportation for vulnerable students. All of the measures to cater for the sitting of the national examinations will be gazetted and released to the public this week. Schools in Guyana have been closed since March, when the national emergency measures to deal with the coronavirus were instituted as the country recorded its first case. Many teachers have been conducting online classes for their students, while the Ministry of Education has made preparation material available on its website and social media pages. In the field of education, the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, has released the timetables for this year's CSEC and CAPE examinations. The CSEC exams will begin on the 13th of July with the foreign languages and music. The exams will continue until the 4th of August. Unlike previous years and owing to the current COVID-19 measures, for many of the examinations, CXC will rely on the school-based assessment that students completed months ago to generate a score for their Paper 2 exams. All of the main subjects will have a Paper 1 examination of multiple choice questions. CXC has sought to explain that the modified examination strategy will yield valid grades, assess critical competencies, and minimize the disruption to the education system. The award of final grades will be based on the moderated SBAs and multiple choice papers. According to CXC, during grading, CXC's quality assurance process will apply the appropriate weighing to ensure that candidates are tested fairly and in an unbiased manner. The CXC examinations should have been completed during the months of May and June, but with schools across the region closed since March because of the coronavirus pandemic, a decision was made to push back the exams to July and change the format. Some Caribbean countries are still not supportive of the new CXC format and the exams being done in July. A number of regional teachers' representative groups, including Guyana Teachers Union, have expressed reservations and worry about the exams being done in the month of July. The timetables could be accessed by going to cxc.org. As Guyana prepares to begin accepting flights with Guyanese nationals who are stranded abroad, those nationals will be required to home quarantine for 7 days once they produce a negative COVID-19 test 2 days before their arrival and successfully pass the COVID-19 screening at the local airports when they arrive. The measure is applicable to the first 300 Guyanese nationals who have been granted approval to return home. The Guyana Civil Aviation Authority has announced that the first flight of Guyanese nationals is expected to arrive next week from Barbados, while a flight from the United States is expected the following week. There has been some confusion on the quarantine issue, as information contained in the official Ministry of Foreign Affairs application form for the repatriation flights appears to differ from the position of the National COVID-19 Task Force. The Foreign Affairs Ministry in its application form indicates that persons are required to undergo at least 14 days of quarantine. It also indicates that a negative test does not necessarily exempt the applicant from quarantine. However, when contacted this morning, the Secretary to the Task Force, Imran Khan, pointed to an earlier release on the issue from the National COVID-19 Task Force. He clarified that the form requires that all persons consent to being quarantined at a public facility as a safeguard in the event that the person arriving shows signs or symptoms of the coronavirus upon the arrival, as the test would have been done 2 weeks prior to their arrival and submitted 2 days before. It was explained that the arriving nationals will be allowed to submit themselves to 7 days of home quarantine once they present a negative test and show no signs or symptoms upon their arrival in Guyana. The task force is expected to clarify the issue. There are more than 500 Guyanese nationals stranded abroad who have been indicating an interest to return home. The Guyana Civil Aviation Authority will be overlooking all of the flight arrangements with the airlines that will be used for the charter services. The returning nationals will stand the cost for their airline tickets. The Civil Aviation Authority will also be allowing the U.S. flights as part of a phased approach. Each flight is likely to be 7 to 14 days apart, as there is concern that if a large number of persons arrive at one time and may require quarantine at a government facility, there may not be enough facilities in place to accommodate everyone at the same time. Regularly scheduled flights are not likely to return until late July or August, and that will be dependent on the COVID-19 situation in Guyana. Airports in Guyana have been closed since March as a precautionary measure to assist in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. In the courts, flamboyant Guyanese-American businessman Marcus Bisram walked out of the Cam Street jail a free man this afternoon after High Court Judge Simon Morris Ramlal ordered his release while dismissing the committal for him to stand trial for murder. Back in March, Bisram was set free after a Berbice magistrate upheld a no-case submission by his attorneys. However, he was arrested hours after his release as the Director of Public Prosecutions directed the magistrate to reopen the preliminary inquiry and commit him to stand trial in the High Court. It was that decision that forced Bisram's battery of lawyers, including Sanjeev Tatadin and Dexter Todd, to approach the High Court, seeking several orders. Today, Justice Simon Morris Ramlal agreed with the arguments of Bisram's lawyers and quashed the decision of the DPP to direct the magistrate to reopen the preliminary inquiry. The judge said that decision by the DPP was unreasonable, unlawful, and was made by ignoring relevant considerations. The judge also quashed the DPP's decision to direct the magistrate to commit Bisram to stand a High Court trial for the offense of murder. Additionally, Justice Morris Ramlal also granted an order quashing the decision of the magistrate to commit Bisram to stand trial in the High Court for the offense of murder. An order of prohibition was also granted, prohibiting the DPP from preferring an indictment in the High Court charging Marcus Bisram with the offense of murder. His arrest on the 30th of March has been deemed as unlawful, and his incarceration since his arrest was also deemed as unlawful by the High Court. The court also ordered his immediate release from prison.
The judicial system has worked. We've been saying all along, there's no reason that Mr. Bisram should have ever been charged. There's no evidence. We've gone through several PIs. The magistrate has agreed. The DPP has tried to override that. We went to a judge of the High Court now who has also agreed with us. This has always been our position. We've been saying it over and over. This is really the state going after a citizen when they should never have done so. There was never any evidence. But today is proof that the judicial system works. The system does work.
Bisram's attorney Dexter Todd told News Source that he is pleased with the orders of the court. He said the DPP was wrong to instruct the magistrate to reopen the preliminary inquiry and commit his client to stand a High Court trial when there was no direct evidence for conviction. Todd said while the DPP has the power to instruct the reopening of cases and to direct committals, the circumstances of this particular case were different since there was no evidence tying his client to the murder of Carpenter Fayaz Naraindat. The attorney said even the witnesses that the prosecution was depending on to strengthen its case against Bisram could not directly link the man to the murder during their appearance before the court at the preliminary inquiry stage. Marcus Bisram was extradited from the U.S. last year to face the murder charge in the local courts. That extradition came after a long battle in the U.S. courts by him to block the extradition. Once in Guyana, Bisram was charged, but his case crawled through the courts as there were several issues regarding the prosecution's readiness and the first magistrate who started to hear the matter. That magistrate was forced to remove himself from the case. The preliminary inquiry eventually got underway, and after listening to the witnesses who were called during that inquiry, the lawyers for Bisram pushed forward their no-case submission. A number of other persons have also been charged in connection with the same murder. The murder victim, Fayaz Naraindat, was beaten to death and then crushed by a car in Berbice after it was alleged that he turned down advances by Bisram. By the time the matter was investigated, Bisram had already left the country. Let's tell you now that the Commissioner of Police, who is also the country's Chief Immigration Officer, is standing by the information provided to the chair of the Guyana Elections Commission on persons who were out of the country on Elections Day. In response to a Kaieteur News article that sought to discredit the information provided by the chief immigration officer, the police force this afternoon refuted the article and indicated that it stands by the information provided to the Elections Commission. The police force explained that immigration data produced by the Immigration Department of the Guyana Police Force is generated through its record system, which includes an electronic border management system. The force said the system does not record persons who traveled illegally. Last week, the Elections Commission chair sent a letter to the chief immigration officer requesting information on a list of 207 persons identified by the APNU-AFC as being out of the country on elections day, but still votes were cast for those persons. In response, the police commissioner confirmed that 172 of those persons on the list were indeed out of the country on elections day, based on the immigration records. News source understands that additional names are to be provided to the Elections Commission and the police force for the immigration details of those persons who were also believed to be overseas on elections day but still had votes cast in their names. On the police blotter, police investigators are this evening continuing their probe of the murder of a 61-year-old woman in her Atlantic Gardens home. The dead woman has been identified as Sati Bikari. Her lifeless body with multiple stab wounds was found on the floor of the house, while the suspect was found hiding in the ceiling of the property yesterday afternoon. Neighbors said they summoned the police after they heard the woman screaming for help and murder. When the police arrived at the scene, they could not gain access to the house, but noticed the suspect on the inside. The man reportedly made his way into the ceiling as police officers broke into the property and discovered the woman's body. The police had to use tear gas to force the man from the ceiling. Persons in the area said from all appearances the dead woman and the suspect were known to each other, as he visited the house regularly. Big Harry, who lived in Canada, came to Guyana back in February but decided to stay on to do some repairs to her home. All of her children live overseas. The suspect remains in police custody tonight as murder charges are being prepared. Across the Region is coming up next.
Wondering how you can access free learning materials for your children? Parents and guardians, please visit the Ministry of Education's website at www.education.gov.gy to access textbooks, past papers, and practice tests to keep your child engaged in continuous learning. When you have accessed the site, go to the Students tab, wait for a second, and choose the appropriate option. You now have access to the resources you need. You are encouraged to take advantage of this opportunity as we strive to provide the best education for the nation's children. A message from the Ministry of Education.
They've made a positive impact on the heavy-duty transportation industry in Guyana since they've arrived. Guyanese are amazed at their power, durability, efficiency, and superior handling capabilities. These are brand new trucks, manufactured in partnership with German, Italian, and French companies. They have a powerful reputation for operating under very adverse Guyanese conditions and come with full after-sales service and spare parts. They're the most sought-after trucks today, with over 500 units in Guyana, and they're available in over 100 countries, including South America and the Caribbean. Be smart. Buy brand new ST Howo trucks today. Call 608-4998 and arrange for an inspection at ST Truck Guyana Incorporated, Block B, Public Road, Covenant, East Bank, Demerara.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right. Walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong. Be the one to live right.
Falls, a trademark of China's Zhanghao Incorporated, located at Land of Canaan, East Bank, Demerara, was incorporated in April of 2013, with over $10 billion Guyana dollars invested in a state-of-the-art 100,000 barrel fuel storage facility, a modern service station, an office complex, and a modern wharf that can berth international vessels. Having no association with any other fuel company, Falls imports its own fuel, which meets quality specifications, has all the legal permits, and is in compliance with international requirements. Its bulk facility can load 8 trucks simultaneously at a rate of 1,000 liters per minute, while the service station can service 12 cars at a time using computerized fuel pumps, which can facilitate the use of ATM cards. Through its professional team of mostly Guyanese, Falls wholesales and retails fuels to the public, including farmers and miners, and will continue to positively contribute to Guyana by providing quality products, service, and attractive prices. Try Falls today for all your fuel needs.
Anyone who believes he or she was exposed to coronavirus COVID-19 must stay at home and not mix with other family members. This quarantine is to help stop the spread of the virus at home and in our communities. While at home for 14 days or 2 weeks, here are some valuable tips you must follow. First, get a separate room which family members will not be allowed to enter during those 14 days of quarantine. Ensure this room allows you to get lots of fresh air. Second, if you must meet family members, stay at least 1 meter or 3 feet away from them. Third, when it comes to personal hygiene, other members of the household should use a separate bathroom. If you must share a bathroom, ensure you always clean the taps, doorknobs, and all utensils with soap and running water. Fourth, limit the number of visitors to your home. Anyone in quarantine must not meet and greet any visitor. Fifth, practice frequent hand washing with soap and running water. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds every time. If there are no soap and running water, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 75% alcohol. Sixth, always avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Seventh, after using face masks or gloves, always throw them away. Put them in bins with covers. Remember also to always use separate plates, drinking glasses, cups, and other eating utensils, towels, bedding, and other items for the family member who is in quarantine. And don't forget to use detergents every time to wash all utensils, bed linen, and clothes used by the person in quarantine. Please remember to use the thermometer, not the back of your hands, to monitor the body temperature of the quarantined family member. Monitor them 2 times every day. Be sure to write down the temperature. If he or she develops a fever or temperature above 37.5 degrees Celsius or 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit, cough or has difficulty breathing, sore throat, body aches and pain, immediately call the COVID-19 hotline by dialing 180 or 181. Protect yourself and others. Play your part in helping to reduce the risk of contracting or spreading COVID-19. This is a message from the Ministry of Public Health in collaboration with PAHO WHO. For more information, kindly visit the Ministry's website www.health.gov.gy or its Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pages.
Across the region right now, Antigua and Barbuda became the first CARICOM state to reopen its international airport on Monday, amid stringent health protocols to prevent any reoccurrence of the coronavirus. In a statement, the airport authorities said that the health protocols that cover the diverse range of operations at the VC Bird International Airport will be in full effect to coincide with the opening of the island's borders. It said the guidelines were subject to the scrutiny of major stakeholders and shared with employees and operators across the VC Bird International Airport through a series of virtual meetings. The Antigua and Barbuda Airport Authority said it will be restricting traffic through the terminal to travelers and airport staff, and that they will be subject to the agreed protocols, which include all passengers being required to wear masks during the arrival and departure process. In addition, all arriving passengers will be asked to complete a health declaration form, following which port health authorities will administer health and screening checks, and that all airport staff who have to interface with the traveling public must wear PPEs as per the standard health protocols. In Latin America, more than 10,000 persons have died with coronavirus in Mexico, the country's health ministry has announced. The announcement came on the same day that many restrictions brought in to curb the spread of the virus were lifted. The number of confirmed cases was more than 93,000 as of Monday, according to official figures in Mexico. That figure means that Mexico is the 4th worst affected country in Latin America, after Brazil, Peru, and Chile. And finally tonight, international news. More than 1 in 6 young people have stopped working since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic globally, while those who remain employed have seen their working hours cut by 23%. That's according to the International Labour Organization. According to the ILO Monitor COVID-19 and the World of Work 4th edition, youth are being disproportionately affected by the pandemic, and the substantial and rapid increase in youth unemployment seen since February is affecting young women more than young men. The pandemic is inflicting a triple shock on young people. Not only is it destroying their employment, said the report, but it is also disrupting education and training and placing major obstacles in the way of those seeking to enter the labor market or move between jobs. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting.